In a world where fantasy football has taken over the land, two unlikely heroes will arise. They call themselves the Fantasy Football Apocalypse. But who are they?
Trent and Jeremy. Trent and Jeremy. Trent and Jeremy. Trent and Jeremy. Trent and Jeremy, yes, they are the boys. When it comes to fantasy advice, they got the noise. One's a little loud, and he's far from cautious. His voice alone will turn your stomach nauseous. MC number 2, well, it's just not that simple. Some would even question that he's borderline mental. These two combined will try to be funny, but their main goal is to try to make you money.
Oh, yes! Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is time, yet again, for the Fantasy Football Apocalypse. I am Trent Scott, joined, as always, by Jeremy Scott.
Oh, I'm a little depressed today, Trent.
Oh, yeah? Why is that, Jeremy?
Because I missed the playoffs. I fought so hard. What was I, fourth most points? Or third?
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, you were up there.
Oh, fantasy is just so brutal sometimes, Trent.
You know,
so brutal.
We were talking about this before the show, and I'm so happy you missed the playoffs for so many reasons. First of which, you missed the playoffs, which in and of itself brings me great joy. Because you're the two-time rating champion. I've discussed ad nauseum how much I thought you did not deserve to win last year. So I feel very karmically this is justified, you missing the playoffs this year. But more importantly, you have a slew of great players on your roster that I, since I made the playoffs, no longer have to worry about anyone having on their team.
Oh man, it's so heartbreaking. Fantasy is like a woman. It will be good in the good times and then rip your heart out when you're down and just kick you when you're down. Speaking
of kicking you while you're down, let's talk about last week, shall we? Because going into last week, you had finally claimed the lead against me, 6-5 and the one tie. Well, we are now back to being tied 6-1 because I beat you last week. Even though you had a 34-point game from Buck Allen, I still beat you by 24.
Oh, so you're saying I had the call of the week?
You had the call of the week, but you also had four players score 10 or less points out of your 6 picks.
Trent, this is what I want to focus on. How come when you win, we always focus on how great your picks were? And then when I win, we don't hardly ever talk about it.
I gave you props. You had Buck Allen score 34.
Anyway.
On the other hand,
Trent won, and we are tied. This is coming down to the wire, my friend. We got, what is this, week 14?
Yeah, this is week 14 we're about to do, yeah.
Man.
And we were also talking about this yesterday. We thought it would be interesting to see, since we're tied for the year in record, we thought it would be interesting to see what the total points look like. I currently have an 8-point lead on you for the year. Our picks are that close.
So crazy. So wait, what was the final, by the way? Do you remember that number?
1081 to 1073.
Okay, 1081 divided by, what would we be at, 13 weeks? That's an average of 83 a week.
And we're only picking 6 players, remember? So that's over what?
That's a 13.8 average pick per week. That's good, man. I'm impressed with that numbers because think about it. If you're 13.8 times 9 players, that's 124 a week. I think the numbers speak for themselves, Trent.
Yeah, I think we definitely are having some good success. I do want to talk about a couple of my players since I talked about Buck Allen.
Okay, be quick because we have a debate topic and the listeners don't want to be here for an hour.
So I got 40 combined from the two loves of my life, Thomas Rawls and Martavis Bryant. Both found the end zone. And my Chiefs connection, Alex Smith, went for 24. Jeremy Maclin went for 28. And then, of course, Scott Chandler, filling in for Gronk, scored a touchdown and had 16.
Hey, think about this. You think Martavis Bryant will go... if you think about this, Antonio Brown, he in my opinion, he's the number 1 overall pick, but he'll be first round for sure. And then Martavis, I'm like, okay, 4th round's too late. third round kind of seems late, but I think he's going to go second round next year.
My goal for next year's draft is to get Thomas Rawls in the first round and Martavis Bryant in the second.
Honestly, I just want the entire Steelers offense, even if it's D'Angelo Williams.
Dude, he was amazing again last week.
I know. I don't get it. Actually, what? We should have picked him. But or no, he's above 7,000.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you, Trent.
All right, I'm dying to hear it.
Oh, I'm dying to say it because I know it will just infuriate you. And I told Trent probably 5 days ago, I have an amazing question. Now, we have seen Peyton Manning succeed, I mean, to a degree that hasn't been seen before in the NFL, in just basically what he's been able to do for the Colts and the Broncos, disregard this year. Now, Tom Brady has been with the Patriots for his entire career, and he's had an amazing career. I cannot ignore that. I hate admitting it, but I can't ignore that. Now, I'm a huge advocate of saying that the Patriots are a system, because they are. And like we talked about before the show, it does not matter who plays slot receiver, because they will go in and they will produce. It doesn't matter. Now, if Peyton... I have two questions. Actually, I'll save the one, and we'll start with this. If Tom Brady plays for another team, and he never meets Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, I'll admit it, what does his career end up looking like?
That's an interesting question because coming out of college, he was a complete afterthought. He of course, he played football at the University of Michigan, but he split time with Drew Henson, who went on to play baseball and then wound up trying to come back to football and just didn't work out in either sport. So Brady was never really the full-time starter in college. He wound up being a 6th-round draft pick. So it's very easy for a guy like that could have just completely slipped through the cracks had Drew Bledsoe never got hurt. Because even being on the Patriots, if Bledsoe never gets hurt, maybe he never gets an opportunity. So it's very easy to imagine a world in which Tom Brady never gets a chance. Just everything happened to fall in place for him the right way, and then he made the most of it. So I could totally imagine a scenario where Tom Brady never got a shot and it just never became this guy that we know.
Yes, true. Now, here's another question. How many Super Bowls do the Patriots and Peyton Manning win if he's in that system?
I think it's more than the one that Manning won, but I think it's less than the 4 that Brady won. I think 2, maybe 3.
Now, I can, and it can go either way. I mean, I could really argue either way. I think it would be more. I personally think Peyton Manning would have the most Super Bowls of all time. I think he would go down as unquestionably the greatest of all time because he has the statistical records. Now, who knows if he... I mean, that's not true because Belichick loves to run the score up, so it's not like he would cap Peyton Manning. But I can't... I wish we could rewind history and just put Peyton in that system just to see what happens. Because Peyton was thrown in... I mean, he threw what, like 25 picks his first year
28.
or something like that? Yeah, 28 picks. I mean, he had to learn the hard way. He didn't have anybody to develop like Aaron Rodgers did, like like Brady did with Bledsoe, and even like Romo did with Vinny Testaverde. No, with Bledsoe as well. But that was an interesting thought. I was talking with somebody about that.
Here's why I disagree with you about why I don't think Manning would have been more successful. If you look at Peyton Manning's career, he has always been on a team that was strictly built around his offense. He's always had tons of weapons. In Indianapolis, of course, with Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and Edgerrin James. And now in Denver with Eric Decker, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas. He's always had just superstar weapons to throw the ball to. Save for 1 year in Tom Brady's career where he had Randy Moss, Tom Brady's never had a team built around him on offense. Now he's had tremendous offenses, but he's always been the leader of those teams by far. I mean, he won Super Bowl with Troy Brown as his leading receiver, and Troy Brown played time at cornerback as well, so that tells you how important that was. The Patriots have always been built around their defense first, and so I don't think Peyton Manning is the same player when he's throwing the ball to Troy Brown and guys like that as he was when he was throwing the ball to Reggie Wayne.
Okay, I honestly, I was kind of hoping you would say that, because think about, he made Austin Collie relevant. He made Dallas Clark relevant. Tom Brady has had Rob Gronkowski for a few years now, who is unquestionably the best tight end in the league. He had Randy Moss, who they broke the record that year for
1 year.
touchdowns,
He had
right?
Randy Moss for 1 year, and yes,
Yeah.
They both, I mean, Peyton since broke Brady's record, but Moss did break the receiving record, which still stands.
And Brady has had Wes Welker, who is one of the greatest slot receivers of all time,
Who
if
Peyton
not
Manning
the
also had.
greatest. Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't think you're extremely devaluing the players that Tom Brady has been able to play with.
I'm just saying,
and completely
the talent,
devaluing the fact that Peyton Manning has been able to develop these. I mean, Anthony Gonzalez from Ohio State.
He was a
had
first-round
decent year.
pick.
I know, but he sucked. He had a decent year. What was Austin Collie? I mean, it can go on forever.
Okay, the point is, Peyton Manning has had way better offensive players around him throughout his career than Tom Brady has had.
And I personally believe that's because of Peyton Manning. I mean, Demaryius Thomas wasn't putting up ridiculous numbers until he got
that's
there.
a guy that was a first-round pick and had Tim Tebow throwing him the ball his rookie year. So I don't think that's a very fair argument. Nobody put up good numbers receiving when Tim Tebow was there.
I get it, but you're making it like Brady has had no one to play with, and Peyton has. Peyton has made everyone. He's made who was the tight end before Dallas Clark?
I don't remember.
He made that guy good. Like, I'm just saying,
Okay,
he makes
but
players so good.
I mean, I could argue Julian Edelman was a quarterback at Kent State, and he's now an all-pro wide receiver. I could argue that Tom Brady did that. Danny Amendola...
That's just being an athlete. What do you... That's Cordell Stewart.
I mean, Danny Amendola was an undrafted free agent who couldn't even make the Cowboys practice squad, who's now getting...
Do you not remember what Sam Bradford and Danny Amendola did while both of them were healthy? Amendola was incredible when he played.
Incredible is a bit much. I got to look up...
In a PPR league, he was a phenomenal...
I got to look up
absolutely
his stats now from when he was with the Rams. Hold on.
Do it. Go look him up.
Hold that thought. Let's see.
And you need to look at his catches per game. He would seriously have 10 catches for 100 yards.
Okay.
I remember we drafted him. He always got injured. Now, he only played a few games. It's a small sample size.
So, let's see. 2009, he played in 14 games, had 43 catches for 326 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Who was his quarterback?
Sam Bradford. In 2010...
Well, did Sam Bradford actually play? Because Sam Bradford has missed literally his entire career.
I'm looking... Okay, all I can do is tell you Amendola's numbers. The next year, 2010, he played in all 16 games, had 85 catches for 689 and 3 touchdowns. 2011, he only played in 1 game, so it's not even worth mentioning that. 2012, his only other year with the Rams, he had 63 catches for 666 and 3 touchdowns. So he never had more than 700 yards or 3 touchdowns in a season. Danny Amendola was absolutely nothing with the Rams.
I completely disagree. You can ask other people in our fantasy league.
I just read you his numbers.
Dude, this is skewed. Like, you can't look at the game-by-game thing. You do not realize he flirted in and out of injuries every mother effing week. Like, he was always injured. He tore his shoulder twice, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm telling you, you need to talk to other people in our league who remember back when Amendola came onto the scene. Like, you're not giving him enough credit, but that's because you don't know. You weren't.
You're talking about him being hurt and missing. I just read you a season where he played in all 16 games, and he didn't even have 700 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns.
That was his rookie year,
wasn't it?
Wasn't
Second year.
I'm just saying, like, I completely disagree. I don't. I think Marvin Harrison was great, and so is Reggie Wayne. I mean, they're
both
two
Hall
of the best
of Famers.
wide receivers of all
they're
time
both Hall of Famers.
because of Peyton freaking Manning.
I totally
Like-
disagree with that. That's why, I mean, Reggie Wayne was still great after...
Okay, well, look at this. Okay, here's another point. Matt Castle, number one, is the ultimate case for the system quarterback in New England.
See, that's a
But
totally separate conversation.
Matt Castle is no, it's not. It's the same exact.
No, we're-
Well, I mean, as far as yeah, it is. The basis of the question that I presented, that is the number one case. And now that we're on to this,
Real quick, though, as far as Matt Castle, because we do need to move on.
no. We need to stay in this subject. Let me say what I was going to say. Then we'll go back to Matt Castle. Look at Matt Castle right now playing with Des Bryant. Des Bryant is one of the best athletes and wide receivers that will ever cross the NFL's history, and he can't even get him the ball. It makes a huge difference who you have at quarterback.
Okay, as far as Matt Castle is concerned, it's been 8 years since Matt Castle played for the Patriots, so the Matt Castle of now is clearly not the same player he was when he was with New England, first and foremost, because it's been 8 years. Secondly, people forget, Matt Castle was literally a Pro Bowler with the Kansas City Chiefs. He led the Chiefs to the playoffs and had a...
For 1 year. He had the year after he was a pro. That was 1 year.
That's the point. So that's what I'm saying. Matt Castle is better than people want to give him credit for because he left New England. He went to a totally different team and a totally different system and was still successful. So you can criticize Matt Castle about what's happened to him since then, but Matt Castle was a pretty good quarterback for a 2 to 3 year run. Now he fell off after that, but he was still good even after he left New England, which people never want to talk about.
Because he was not good.
He was literally a Pro Bowler.
You know, he didn't even throw for 3,000 yards that year, right?
27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
He did not throw for 3,000 yards.
Again, I don't have his numbers directly in front of me, but that's beside the point. He was still a pro.
Okay.
He was still a pro. I mean, he was still a Pro Bowler, and his team still went to the playoffs.
Okay, who else is a Pro Bowler? First off,
And actually, he did throw for
Super Bowl.
He actually
never
did
make
throw
it.
for 3,000 yards that year. By the way, 3,116.
Oh, yeah, you're
That's
right.
3,000 yards.
So the next year he had 27 or
29.
Is that
Yeah,
what it-
29.
Yeah. So congrats, he threw for 100 yards more than 3,000. He's not good, and you can live in Patriot denial, but the rest of us will.
He also did miss a
stay
game
here
that
on
year, so if he
reality.
didn't miss a game, but see, that's the whole point. Is you want to try and back me into this corner, but I'm not going to fall for your trap. Look,
What are you talking? There's no trap, dude. They speak for themselves. What are you talking
exactly,
about?
they do speak for themselves. He was a Pro Bowler, and he led his team to the playoffs. Like,
Dude,
how can you argue with that?
Who was the first off? The two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl don't make the Pro Bowl, so that's two spots right there that he can get in, or the one, I guess, for his division. I mean, that's one thing right there. I really don't know what else to say other than what I've already said, but I guess that's not really what the show is about, is it? The show is about fantasy.
Yeah, it's about fantasy. Let's get into this week, shall we?
Well, how long has it been?
We are
Yeah, we're going to have to be
17 and a half minutes into this show, and we have not talked about this week yet.
I told you it would be a good debate.
Might have been a little too good.
Anyway, let us go. Sorry, I just got an email and it distracted me. Trent, start us off. You won.
Yes, I did win. Speaking of Kansas City Chiefs quarterbacks, it worked out so well for me last week, I figured why not do it again this week. I'm going with Alex Smith. They are playing the San Diego Chargers, who, if you don't know how bad the Chargers are, you've been living under a rock. That team is terrible. Alex Smith has all the momentum in the world. I'm going with him again this week.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Chargers, they are awful. No one in their right mind can disagree against that. So, I mean, as far as that concerned, I think Alex Smith can have a decent game. I mean, he's really been kind of impressing me, to be honest, the way he's been playing. So, I do like that. I mean, the only stipulation is if they get up big, they just run the ball. But, I mean, it's the Chiefs. Who knows what's going to happen? Like last week, I thought it would be a shootout. I guess it kind of ended up being a shootout, but
yeah. By the way, your boy Sharkhandrick, it's over, man.
Man, that sucks that he got injured. But it's like I could run for at least 500 yards behind that Chiefs offensive line.
All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's try and be quick here. Jeremy, who's going to be your quarterback this week?
I'm going to go with Brock Osweiler. He's got an extremely juicy matchup against Oakland. I know he didn't have the best game, actually, against San Diego last week. They're surprisingly decent against quarterbacks and wide receivers just because their run D is so bad, kind of like the Falcons. The teams just game plan to run. But I think Osweiler has a big week this week, and he should get around. What's our average? He should get around 13.8.
There you go. Yeah, like you said, he wasn't great last week. I actually started him last week on my season-long team, and he only had 8 points because the Broncos are all about running the football right now. And like you were just talking about, the Chargers have a terrible run defense. So I could definitely see Osweiler being a small part of the game plan. So I'm kind of concerned about Osweiler.
All right, moving on, Trent. Who is your running back pick of the week?
My running back pick of the week from my beloved New England Patriots, James White, another guy that was a total zero and has emerged onto the scene, had 10 catches for 115 yards last week and a touchdown. As long as there's no Dion Lewis, there's no Gronk, there's no Julian Edelman, this guy's going to get fed targets, so I'm going with White.
Isn't Gronk supposed to be back this week?
As far as I know, it's questionable.
Okay, from what I heard Gronk was back. Now, Trent is right. If none of those guys are playing, James White should be a viable option. I think Gronk is coming back, so that will hurt him. But here's the thing. Now, he hasn't had Edelman for some time now, and he hasn't really done anything. I guess he did all right against Buffalo as well, but it really just depends on how much they're going to commit to him, and it's all about the game plan. Now, I will give it, if they game plan to involve him, he will dominate, because it's the freaking Patriots. They can do whatever they want. But he's just as liable to throw up, what I would call a goose egg, but he's very cheap, so I do like that option, Trent.
All right, so let's hear your running back this week, Jeremy.
I'm going with Lamar Miller. This guy gets not near the credit he deserves, and I'm not even just saying that as a Dolphins fan. I mean, even back when Joe Philbin was coaching and not giving him the ball, he was still averaging 5 yards per carry. I think you and I, Trent, had talked about some stats he had in the first half where he was averaging 12 yards a carry, and then they decided not to run anymore. Was that me and you, or me and someone else?
That does not sound familiar to me, so...
Okay, anyway, Baltimore's run D is top 5. He had over 100 yards rushing against them last week. I think he's going to continue to get the carries, but more importantly, he has a good matchup against a terrible Giants run D.
So for me, with Lamar Miller, a couple of things. I'll agree with what you were saying. I've always thought Lamar Miller was more talented than the workload that he received. I personally owned him 2 years ago, back when they were infuriatingly insistent on splitting carries with him and Daniel Thomas, even though Miller was clearly the superior running back. And now, still to this day, 2 years and another head coach later, he's still not quite getting all the carries that he deserves. But this week, like you said, he does have a good matchup. So this would be a week where I would look for him to get 18 to 20 touches. So I'm good with Lamar Miller this week.
Hey, thanks, man. That means a lot. All right, moving on. Who is your second running back, Trent?
My second running back this week, Run DMC, Darren McFadden, the Cowboys taking on the Green Bay Packers. A battle of two teams vying for first place, if you can believe that.
Unbelievable.
We were talking about Matt Castle earlier. He's clearly deteriorated as a player. Darren McFadden has somehow found the fountain of youth, though, because
he looks
better than he's looked at any point in his career, arguably, since he was at Arkansas. He was a little bit quiet last week until he scored a touchdown late. But the Packers' defense doesn't really scare me, so I'm going with McFadden.
Yeah, the only part of McFadden I've become a McFadden fan again. I mean, he gets the volume. I mean, he gets double-digit touches every single week, and sometimes he gets close to 30. But Green Bay's secondary is not good, so I've noticed that teams typically throw quite a bit against him. But I do think from a volume standpoint that it could be good, but the only problem is that teams are just straight up game planning to stop the run because Castle sucks, man. He's so bad. And obviously we'll be quick because we have to, but have you watched Castle and Des Bryant play together, Trent?
Yeah, I watched the entire Monday night game this week.
Like, I feel so bad for Castle because Des Bryant is an absolute prick. I mean,
I was thinking of another word that rhymed with.
yeah. Just want to keep it G-rated on the show. But anyway, yeah, I'm a little leery, but as far as a production standpoint, I mean, McFadden is an extremely cheap option who can definitely go off.
All right, so Jeremy, let's hear your second running back.
My second running back is a guy who I am extremely surprised of what he's doing. Now, I know he doesn't get a ton of carries, but he gets a ton of catches. Since Gabbert has taken over, he's had 22 catches in 4 games. That's insane. Sean Drawn. He's had double digits in every game since playing with Gabbert, and I don't know why he wouldn't continue to do that this week. He's $6,500, and he's playing Cleveland, who's 28th against running backs and fantasy points given up. So I actually love this matchup this week.
So here are my concerns about Sean Drawn. He has now been the starting running back for 4 weeks with the 49ers. These are his game-by-game yardage totals. 58, 37, 51, and 36, and he's also only scored 1 touchdown in that time. So he is not doing very much when it comes to... and is also only averaging 3.3 yards a carry. But, like your boy Buck Allen last week, he is apparently a pass-catching specialist. I don't trust a running back who's averaging 3 yards a carry and has Blaine Gabbert throwing him the ball. That sounds like a recipe for something going terribly, terribly wrong. So I'm staying away from Sean Drawn.
You know whose numbers are even worse than his as far as rushing?
Who's that?
Darren McFadden.
I thought you were going to say DeMarco Murray.
Oh, that's true. Disclaimer, we both passed up on DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray is $6,700 in FanDuel, and we both passed him up. It's not looking good for him. Also, Ryan Matthews is back. But McFadden, in 2 of his last 4 games, has had 17 rushes for 32 yards, 10 rushes for 11, and 14 for 53.
Well, he does score touchdowns, which
Yeah,
Sean Drawn has only
true.
scored 1. So,
you know I'm all about the catches.
all right,
but,
let's move on. Wide receivers. My wide receiver pick of the week. I was talking about Danny Amendola earlier. I'm talking about Danny Amendola right now. We saw it last week. He got 13 more targets. He also threw a 36-yard pass to Tom Brady.
That was pretty awesome.
And what was one of the funnest plays of the week to watch. The announcer just about lost his mind when Tom Brady made the catch.
And it went for what, 39 yards?
36, yeah. So, it was funny. Man. They were talking about, I saw this on the internet. Dwayne Bowe is making $6 million this year and has fewer wide receiving yards than Tom Brady.
Unbelievable. Is he really making that much still from that contract?
No, he got a new contract with the Cleveland Browns, of course, because they're the Browns. And he has 31 yards this year. But
how does Pettin still have a job?
I don't know, but that's beside the point. Danny Amendola is a target monster and will continue to be so in the absence of Julian Edelman. So I like Amendola.
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things that Patriots are pretty much matchup proof, but really just depends on what they game plan. I do like the fact that you've picked 2 Patriots on offense, though, because one of them's bound to not have a good game.
I mean, they both had good games last week.
Yeah, but hopefully Gronk comes back. For my sake.
I'll be totally fine if Gronk is back. That will not hurt my feelings. Let's hear your wide receiver pick of the week, Jeremy.
Okay, I'm going to go with Allen Hurns. He's back. Indy's not. They don't have a good secondary, and Indy has given up a lot of points lately. And Allen Hurns has had a touch. Allen Hurns is a poor man's Martavis Bryant, if you think about it.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because real quick I want to mention Martavis Bryant did score another touchdown last week, but is now officially too expensive to pick anymore. But I still love you, Martavis.
R.I.P. Martavis. R.I.P. Going with Allen Hurns. I like his matchup, and the Jags they're rolling right now. Their offense is looking good.
It's funny you say they're rolling because they lost to a 2-win team last week.
Well,
but their
their offense is
their
rolling.
offense is rolling.
As far as fantasy, they're rolling.
They put up 39 points and lost to a 2-win team. Allen Robinson, the other Allen, was phenomenal last week when Hurns was out with an injury. So that's what a couple of minor concerns there. Hurns, like I said, coming back from injury, may or may not be 100%. And B, Allen Robinson is so good at this point, it might limit Hurns' total potential. But Hurns is still probably a solid option, just not quite an A+.
All right, my friend. Well, give us your... Yeah, you already gave us receiver. Give us your final receiver for the week.
Yes, my final wide receiver. How about... Can you believe I'm about to do this, Jeremy? Doug Baldwin. That's right, folks. He is now fantasy relevant. It has actually happened. He has 8 touchdowns this season. His last 4 games... 7 catches, 134 yards. 6 catches and 60 yards. 6 catches, 145 and 3 touchdowns. And then last week, 5 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. He has scored 5 touchdowns the last 2 weeks.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
Doug Baldwin is finally good. It's actually happened. After years of being the number 1 receiver on one of the best teams in the league, he has finally gotten good. Give me Doug Baldwin.
But has he gotten good? I just can't pick Baldwin because he throws up more goose eggs than touchdowns. So I just can't do it. But I respect you for doing it if that makes any sense.
I'm starting him in the playoffs on my team this week.
Oh man, unfreaking believable.
All right, let's hear your second wide receiver, Jeremy.
All right, my second wide receiver is a big name who's slacking lately. Randall Cobb is only $7,000. Dallas's defense is just going to be on the field quite a bit, so I'm gonna roll the dice with Cobb. He's like Trent and I were talking about before the show. He hasn't had that bad of a season. Just the whole Packers offense has been struggling mightily as of late. So I'm going with Cobb.
Cobb is an interesting one for me because, of course, you traded me Cobb earlier this year for Emmanuel Sanders. I don't think that trade really worked out the way either one of us envisioned it going. It's weird because we both thought Cobb was going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year. That hasn't happened, but the entire Packers offense hasn't been as good as expected. Cobb has still been their most consistent player. It's tough to really love anything the Packers are doing right now, but they are playing the Cowboys. So if they were going to get it going 1 week, this would be the week to do it.
Yeah, agreed. We'll see what happens. All right, Trent, moving on to your favorite position.
God, I hate tight ends. I derive no joy from picking tight ends. They're all so bad. But I had to pick one, so I'm going with Charles Clay of the Buffalo Bills. They are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who actually somehow, someway upset New England last week. Their defense still wasn't that great. They did get, 2 special teams touchdowns, though, that made the difference in the game. But the Bills' defense is not great, and so I'm going with Charles Clay.
Yeah, I mean, it's tight ends, man. Who knows? I'm going with Benjamin Watson coming off a touchdown game. He has a good matchup this week, so I'm going with Benjamin Watson if you're going to go a cheap route in FanDuel.
Yeah, not much to argue with. It, like you said, it's tight ends.
Yeah. Well, that was we combined all our picks in about 15 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, about 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely a unique show. Not one of original format, meaning our debate lasted a while. But I knew it would. That's why I told him earlier in the week that I have a very good question for the show. But anyway, Trent, you got any pieces of advice before we part ways?
Yeah, good luck to everyone who made the playoffs, myself included. I have to take on my brother actually played him last year in the first round as well. I beat him last year, so it's going to be a shame to have to take out my own brother 2 years in a row.
I don't really want to pull for either of you guys, but between the two, I'm definitely pulling for Joseph. Because Joseph beat me is why I say that. Joseph virtually is the reason I didn't make the playoffs, if you think about it. But it's fantasy, my friend. Anything can happen. So, all right, we got 3 more shows left. So stay strong and good luck with most of you doing your fantasy playoffs this week. Bye.